the Nationals could be almost totally destroyed at the next election, even under new leader Matt Canavan, who's one of the smartest, most articulate, hardest working of our politicians. Already, of course, One Nation has more senators than the Nationals, and now Hanson is going after Matt Canavan himself. Now, when I say it's just going after him, obviously she'd love him to join One Nation, just as former Nationals leader Barnaby Joyce has. Canavan is a true conservative. Canavan has real economic smarts, which, of course, you know, One Nation desperately needs. And Canavan now must toe the Liberal line, which must be frustrating. He's got to toe it because he's the Nationals leader now, and he can't upset the Liberals too much. So he's got to change his tune on some issues that he's been passionate about. For instance, on my show last year, Canavan was very clear. Australia should dump the Paris Agreement that commits us to slashing emissions.
Why would we stay in this agreement when China, India, Indonesia are ignoring it? Now the United States as well. It makes absolutely no sense. It is going to do nothing for the environment if we met our net zero targets, which is unlikely anyway. It's just going to cost Australian people more in their power prices, and it's going to continue the deindustrialisation of our nation.
But this week, Canavan, now that he is the Nationals leader, has to be a team player with the Liberals who aren't as hardcore on this stuff as him. He came on the show to say through gritted teeth, well, actually, the Paris Agreement should stay.
We've got to get rid of this Labor government. And if we want to, as I say, pursue these side quests, we won't do that.
One Nation, though, is very clear, of course. Net zero, the Paris Agreement, the whole catastrophe must go. So Canavan would be a perfect fit for One Nation. And getting him on board would end the battle on the right. One Nation with Canavan and Joyce and Pauline Hanson, that would be unstoppable. And the clear option for Conservative voters, and I suggest it would probably win the next election.
Hello folks, imagine you have spent decades building something, a house, a business, a political party, and then someone moves in next door, puts up a bigger sign, and starts getting all the foot traffic. That is essentially what is happening to the Nationals right now. And one very prominent commentator just said the quiet part loud. Sky News host Andrew Bolt made a pointed observation this week. One Nation is considerably more popular than both the Liberals and the Nationals combined in the current polling environment, and if Nationals leader Matt Canavan were to cross the floor and join One Nation, Labor would almost certainly lose the next election. That is a remarkable thing to say on national television. It is also a remarkable thing to have to say. So let us put some numbers behind this, because the context makes the argument land much harder. In late April 2026, Roy Morgan polling had One Nation and the coalition tied on primary vote at 22.5% each, with Labor at 30%. Then just this week, a Resolve Political Monitor poll had One Nation gaining a point to reach 24%, while the coalition dropped a point to 22%, the first time the coalition had fallen below One Nation in that particular monitor. And if you want the really eye-catching number from this week, a Redbridge Group and Accent Research poll of more than 6,000 voters found One Nation could win between 46 and 59 seats if a federal election were held today, with the coalition projected to retain not a single seat in its former strongholds of Queensland and Western Australia. Let that settle. 0 seats in Queensland. 0 seats in Western Australia. The biggest One Nation surge in that modelling was concentrated in Queensland, where the party could potentially win up to 21 seats. Queensland, where Matt Canavan happens to be a senator. Which is precisely why his name keeps coming up in this conversation. Bolt's argument is essentially a mathematical one. The Conservative vote is currently fragmented. One Nation and the coalition are drawing from a very similar pool of voters, and they are splitting that pool rather than combining it. In preferential voting terms, that fragmentation costs seats. If you could consolidate the Conservative vote behind a single credible force, the electoral maths changes significantly. Canavan, with his profile, his Queensland base, and his consistent positioning on resources and economic issues, is the figure Bolt has nominated as the catalyst who could make that consolidation happen. Now, it is worth being clear about what this is and what it is not. This is a commentator's analysis, not a policy announcement. One Nation MP Barnaby Joyce himself, who joined the party from the Nationals in late 2025, told the ABC it would be hubristic and way way ahead of ourselves to assume where the party would be at the next election. The caution is real. Polling models are projections, not results. But the underlying dynamic bolt is pointing to is grounded in verifiable data. Electoral analyst Anthony Green noted that the chances of coalition and one nation support coalescing into an election-winning bloc would require stronger preference flows between the two parties than historical data has consistently shown. In other words, even if both parties want to work together, getting their voters to direct preferences efficiently is not guaranteed. What all of this points to is a conservative side of Australian politics that is genuinely at a crossroads. The structure that has defined right-of-centre politics for decades is being tested by a surge of voter sentiment that neither the Liberals nor the Nationals have so far found a clean answer to. That is federal analysis for today. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Is a consolidated Conservative vote even possible, or is the split here to stay? Subscribe for daily coverage of Australian politics without the noise, and we will see you in the next one.